This portion of the Upstate Racing League's Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series is brought to you by Coach's Corner, there's no place like home. Airborne Graphics, Arts Barbershop, White Knuckle Clothing, Best Colorful Creations, and Brian Rogers Motorsports, proud sponsor of the Brian Rogers Motorsports Rookie of the Year.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to Five Flags Speedway for the Snowflake 100, presented by Hansons Starter Shop for the Upstate Racing League Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series. My name's Kelly Dahl. Along with me is Roger Muth and KR Stolfus, getting you all of the pictures. And Roger, we saw a fantastic race last week, and it's something we say week in, week out. These guys put on an amazing show, and the last time we saw a track this hot and slick, these guys were sliding all over the place. Everyone was just on the limit and made just an exciting race to watch. And here we are again. I think the track temperature's up to 114 degrees. So if you're thinking what I'm thinking, I think we're going to be in for an awesome race to watch.
Absolutely. Last time we saw these boys on a track that had a track temp over 100 degrees, they put 93 green flag laps together before we saw our first unfortunate yellow brought out towards the end of the race. And talking about last week's race, we had the 69 of Matt Coker out there, and he put on one hell of a show last week, along with the 88 of Jake Watson and along with the 24 of Sean Cool. Those three drivers battled it out in the top 5 all night long. So expect those guys to be pretty quick out here tonight, as all three of them are still in your top 5 here in practice.
And another person you can't discount out just yet is the 20 of Justin McDuff, who's currently the top of our practice leaderboard, and he's been on victory lane once before this season, and he's always been consistently a fast driver. So watch for him throughout the night, and we'll see if he can put together a good qualifying run to set up a good race for him.
Yeah, we talked to him last week at the end of the race because he did finish in his podium position in his top 3. And he said qualifying for that 20 machine and the Empire Racing team has been a struggle here in the early season. So he's going to definitely be looking to put together a good, strong qualifying attempt to try and help himself here in the early going of the race, not trying to have to come through traffic, as you know the track temp is going to play a factor in that one.
Now, there is a bit of a shake-up with this league starting this week, and that's thanks to some updates iRacing has done. We're now going to introduce a last chance qualifying race. So we're not going to just lock in the field right after the time trials. There will still be qualifying, but it's going to only lock in the top 20. After that, the rest of the drivers will get a 25-lap race, and that's going to decide who's going to move on to fill in those last 6 spots. So we're still going to have 26 drivers in the main race, but it's going to be decided just a little bit differently. The top 20 get in on time, and then the last 6 have to race their way in. So I think that's going to make for a really just a fun change, and I think it's going to improve this already very unique qualifying system these guys have.
Yeah, iRacing, everybody knows, had done their update this week for week 13, and they finally brought heat racing over here to the league session. So this league here, the Upstate Racing League, they're going to utilize that now to their advantage. So the top 20, like you said, is going to be locked in your time trials. And then it looks like there's actually 27 drivers right now out here on track practicing. So that means there's going to be 7 guys battling for 6 spots. So one guy here tonight is going to be left out of this race.
And a quick, before we get into our qualifying, I think we're going to take a moment to pull aside one of the McDuffs, but this is going to be the driver of the number 413, Wayne McDuff. And Wayne, how are you feeling for tonight's race?
Oh, not too bad. I mean, practice has been going all right. Every time we seem to get up climb up a little bit faster, it seems like we drop right back again, but track's definitely coming around pretty good.
Now, this track we have here tonight is extremely hot, extremely slippery, and how are you guys going to be kind of attacking this track to manage the temperatures?
I'm honestly still trying to figure out the whole blacktop side of everything, but for me, I'm just going to try to pace myself and take my time, and hopefully at the end of the race still have something left in the car to be able to try to get a top 10. I'd like to.
Well, we were just talking about this on our own here. That's the new format that this league is introducing starting tonight, and What are your thoughts on this new last chance qualifier that you guys have introduced?
I think it's going to make a pretty cool show, because I feel like now if you don't qualify, in the top 20, you have one last chance to still get in, and it's going to put on a pretty good little race to get guys trying to get in, last chance qualifier. Obviously, they're going to put it all on the line, try to get in there.
Well, before we let you go here, we're going to just ask maybe one more question, and that is, who do you think is going to win this race?
Last week I had picked Chris Stump, and I barely missed out on that one. So this week, I'm going to go with either my brother or Chris Stump, but I'm going to go with my brother, Justin.
I was wondering if you were going to leave your brother out to dry, or if you were going to call for him. So Wayne McDuff is going to think his brother is going to take this race, and hopefully we'll see you maybe up towards the front, or at least giving us a little bit of a show here later on tonight. But thank you very much for coming to talk to us, Wayne, for just a little bit.
Thanks for having me.
That was Wayne McDuff, driver of the 413 machine and brother of the driver in the number 20, Justin McDuff. And hopefully, like I said, I really would like to see those two guys get together on the track and maybe work together to push their way through this traffic. But the way with short track racing, it's kind of hard to do any sort of team dynamic.
Yeah, team driving on a short track, especially in these cars, usually doesn't work out too well, especially, right now on the boards. Chris Stump, the brother Justin McDuff is upside in your third position, and Wayne's just a little bit down on the speed charts. He was 15th, now just falling back to 16th. So, Justin has a little more speed in that number 20 machine. Something that Wayne touched on there in his interview, he was talking about having one last chance in qualifying if you don't qualify in your top 20 going to that last chance race. A driver last week, unfortunately, that fell victim to falling outside the top 26 in his qualifying attempt was the number 2, Stefan Miranak. Stefan was in your third position in points. He's actually falling back now to the 4th position in points. And actually, I was just about to say the 2 of Stefan Miranak isn't in the lobby tonight, but actually I just saw him connect.
Yeah, Steph has shown up to kind of come back kind of make up for last week's missed race. And the thing is, this does save him a little bit here as we go to take a look at our Arts Barbershop standings. We see that Steph Miranak, he was sitting in 2nd place last week, and then after the last race, it dropped him down to, actually, no, sorry, he was in 3rd going into the last race, and then missing that race dropped him down into 4th. He still does get provisional points. So just because he didn't make the race doesn't mean he gets a big ol' 0. He does get some sort of point. He does get basically what would amount to be 27th place points. So it does save him a little bit, and there is a chase at the end of this season, so he still is comfortably within that top 10. So Steph is still in a good position going on into basically about the halfway point. I think we're just about at for the regular season here.
Absolutely. Another big mover that's inside your top 20, the 11 of Brian Hacker moves up 8 spots and joins the top 20. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of shakeup still inside your top 20 here, as it is still early on in the season. You see a lot of rookies also up inside your top 20. Your highest rookie in the standings, that's going to be the 98 of Chris Stump. Blake Neer also coming on late here, coming on pretty hot. He's up 6 spots this week in the points inside the top 10.
And suddenly we have a lot of times that just got way faster, and that's because a little bit of cloud cover moved over. The track dropped a few degrees in temperature, and that's something we really have to focus on now, is now that iRacing has this kind of dynamic skies, this dynamic weather, if we have a cloud just kind of roll in, suddenly the track's going to cool off. And as we saw, Justin McDuff was at the top of the leaderboard, and now suddenly he's been passed by 5, 6, 7, I think 8 drivers now. So that, and he hasn't even come back out on the racetrack. So just going off of his time, suddenly 8 drivers are up to almost a 1/10 of a second faster, just because a cloud moved across the sun. So this is going to be absolutely huge, especially when it comes down to qualifying.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was just about to talk about that track temp as it dropped down to 100. It's starting to climb now, so the sun must be coming out. That's something new iRacing implemented over here, was the dynamic weather and dynamic clouds. So we're going to have to see what kind of factor that plays in here tonight. Also, they added the day-night transition. This race is going to start here. The qualifying session is going to start here during the day, and possibly by the time we get to our main event towards the end of the race, we'll probably be under the lights here tonight.
Oh, maybe. I think we're going on to just about 2 o'clock in sim time at this moment. So it depending on. Oh, actually, I'm looking at what the date is set in the sim, and that's looking at May. So I think we won't be seeing the sun get very low when it comes to about 3, 4 o'clock during the race. So I think we will still be within the sunlight. And we get a good sun. The sun will continue shining down on this track, but as it dips a little bit lower in the sky, it may cool off the track a little bit. So I think it's entirely possible that we'll have a cooler track to finish off this race, which will allow these guys to suddenly have a lot more grip towards the end.
Well, that's something we're just going to have to pay attention to and see what kind of racing entails here with this dynamic weather, dynamic cloud cover, and changing of this track temp, because it's back down to 100 degrees now again.
While this practice is starting to tick down, taking a look at our leaderboards once again, Jake Watson currently on top of the practice timings with a 17.165. So he is the kind of the driver to watch. Alongside him is Chris Stump in second place, and then Blake Neer. So those are your top 3 at the moment for practice, and unless suddenly someone puts down a really fast time, those are going to be your top 3 practice times. But to watch for those guys to be fast in qualifying, but at the same time, qualifying may now come down to a little bit of a luck of the draw, as we were just talking about the weather. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see, especially because these guys have a group qualifying format. It's not like you can just sit in your pit stall, watch the sky, wait for the cloud to go by. So now you just gotta hope. You gotta kind of hope that your group gets called right as a cloud rolls over, so you can put on a fast time. But in a few minutes, we will see just exactly how that goes. But we're gonna step aside for a quick commercial break, so don't go anywhere. You are watching the Snowflake 100 presented by Hansons Starter Shop for the Upstate Racing League Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series.
This portion of the Upstate Racing League's Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series on MaxSpeedTV is brought to you by Rumar Vinyl Designs. Let us get stuck on you. Lightning Strikes Pro Shop and Hansons Starter Shop.
Welcome back to the Five Flags Speedway as we're getting ready to go qualifying before the Snowflake 100 presented by Hansons Starter Shop for the Upstate Racing League Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series. Just getting a few last words from race control as they're organizing what these groups are going to be. As we've talked about this a few times before, but if you are new to this series, they run a group heat or kind of a group qualifying format. So They call out about 3 or 4 cars at a time. They will line up at the end of pit road, and then those cars will be released onto the track to run 2 laps. So it is just going group by group, not individual cars, and not just kind of everyone kind of going out whenever they want. So you have, and that plays kind of a big part with now these dynamic skies. I was talking about it in practice. If a group does go out when it's a bit sunnier, maybe the track will be a bit hotter, and the groups that go out towards the end will have a bit of a hotter track to work with as all these other cars kind of run around the racetrack and heat it up a little bit. So we're going to get ready for our first group. They just got called out to the start finish or to the end of pit road, and that's the 22 of Mike's Holtzclaw. He's going to be the first one to head on down there. Still waiting on the 65 and the 90, but I think it's going to be just Mike Holtzclaw for the only one on this qualifying group. So we're going to have to take a look and see what Mike can do.
Yeah, let's take a ride along here with him. As actually the track temp, I'm watching it now here, Kelly. It's right now at 115 degrees, so let's see how that plays a factor. As he's going to be the first car out here on track. He's going to take the green flag right there, getting that 22 BG Oils machine up to speed.
So as I mentioned, the early groups may have a bit of an advantage depending on the weather and depending on how many cars run the racetrack. So they do have a bit of a... Oh, Mike gets a little bit loose going into one on his second lap, but he is going to put down a 15.521. And there looks like Matt Roll and Jay Dubuque are on the racetrack, but they are in different run groups, so it is a bit harder to take a look at them. But Mike Holtzclaw is the fastest currently of this group. He is going to put down a 17.521. Matt Roll finishes with a 17.556, and Jay Dubuque will run a 17.703. So right now, Mike Holtzclaw is going to be in the hot seat.
Next up here in group number 2, you're going to have the 89 of Thomas Mittier, the 1 of Jeremy Carpenter, and it looks like the 42 of Brett Bartels. Brett Bartels being a late entry here, but it looks like he will be able to get in a qualifying attempt. Looks like the 89 of Thomas Mittier is going to be your first one here in the second group to take the green flag on his qualifying attempt. Looks like he gets a little high off turn 4, possibly scraping the wall.
Well, hopefully he was able to stay off the wall, because if he scraped that wall going across the line, that would disqualify his lap time. So he would only have to run off his second time. We'll see what it's going to say once he crosses the start-finish line here. Looked pretty stable through the corners. He is going to get a time. It's going to be a 17.770. Jeremy Carpenter going to put down a new quick time with a 17.505. And then Brett Bartels with a 17.625. So Thomas Mittier going to have to run a good lap here to try to lock himself into the race and not have to go through the LCQ. He is going to improve a little bit. That's going to be a 17.684 for him, but the fastest of this group is definitely going to be Jeremy Carpenter with that 17.505.
Jeremy Carpenter looking for a great starting position, as right now he put that number 1 X car on the pole. Jeremy Carpenter is one of our Rookie of the Year candidates right now, sitting in that 7th position. He needs to have himself a good race here, as he's 34 points back in the Brian Rogers Motorsports Rookie of the Year Challenge.
Our next group is going to be the 02 of Josh Mayu, 13 of Guillaume Fortin, and we're also looking for the 45. I don't think he is going to make it onto the track. He is going to make it on the track. He is there, Douglas Wysocki. So they are split between the 2 run groups because of how practice is set up with the heat racing format. So it is a little bit difficult to go between these 2 cars, but we're going to make do. So we're going to see what these guys are able to do on their first time lap. Josh Mayu leading this group around, coming through turns 3 and 4 now, just kind of staying off of that apron just a little bit. But Guillaume Fortin with the fast time going up nearly 2/10 over Jeremy Carpenter with a 17.369. So there's some speed underneath that 13 machine.
Speed underneath the 13 is, it's good seeing Guillaume out here, especially look at that paint scheme that he has on that number 13, as this is the Snowflake 100. These guys bring out the special paint schemes this time of year, and looks like that's possibly going to be the Charlie Brown machine out here.
Yeah, and the zero, he's not the only one. All of the 09 motorsports cars are running a Charlie Brown Christmas theme, and that's kind of great to see the team all kind of working together to put not just one scheme out on the track, but running a full-on theme, and especially for the a kind of a themed race like this, and makes for a very interesting and colorful racetrack. But moving on to group number 4, we've got the 413 of Wayne McDuff. Got the 70 of Dylan Canova. I think we've also got the 81 of James McIntyre, and there's also the 61 of Danny Dubuque.
Danny Dubuque in that 61 having a great run last week, starting all the way back in the 20th position, just making the field by a couple spots, driving up through the field, getting himself a 12th place finish last week, I should say.
Well, Danny Dubuque kind of leading this group around, now taking the green flag, and we've only seen one car get loose so far, and that's kind of surprising. We've seen a lot of cars slipping and sliding. I kind of took to the track myself during practice, and this track I can say is very slick, and these guys are running on the absolute edge, so we'll have to see where they're going to be in this qualifying group. Danny Dubuque puts down a 17.584. Dylan Canova with another quick time of 17.377. James McIntyre Jr. also putting up a decent time with a 17.447, and Wayne McDuff with a 17.539. So a couple of good times up there. Danny Dubuque actually improving his time with a 17.535. So this group all consistently pretty decent times, but Guillaume Fortin is still going to sit on top of the leaderboard right now.
And his time was put up with a track temp right around 115. Track temp just up just a tad right now at a 118. So there you see that track temp rising a little bit. Nobody this round in this group being able to bump the 13 of Fortin off the pole. McIntyre was your quickest driver out of this group here at a 17.443.
Well, getting ready for our next group, group number 5. That's going to be the 77 and the 16. That's Paul Henley and the 77 of Andy Lambert. So
77 of Andy Lambert out there on track supporting the, it looks like, the Labatt Ice paint scheme. And he also has one of those Christmas paint schemes on there, as you see Santa Claus and the reindeers. It's just one of those things. I know I just talked about it, but just seeing these paint schemes out here on track, it's pretty festive, if you will.
Yeah, good for getting into the spirit now. Watching Paul Henley come off of turn number 4 and see where he leads with his time, and that's going to be a 17.510 for his first lap. 77 Andy Lambert puts down a 17.569. Paul Henley now going through turns 3 and turns 4 for the last time, getting a good launch off of the corner. That was actually looked like a decent lap there, but not going to improve. So tires just getting a little bit too warm on that second lap. And looking at the track temperature, we are at 118 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. So it is definitely very slippery out there.
All right, getting a little more slippery as we go. 2 drivers up here for your next group. That's going to be group 6. That's going to be the 30 of Will Dravecki. They're in the Pepsi, sorry, that's Brian Rogers Jr. in the 12 machine in the Pepsi. Then it's going to be the 30 of Will Dravecki. Will Dravecki's going to lead these guys off of pit road. There's another one of those 09 Motorsports drivers with the Charlie Brown paint scheme. He's going to support Snoopy on the hood. You see him going high to try and arc it off the turn 4 there, get a little more speed coming down the front stretch as he dives it now down into turn 1.
Taking a look on board of Brian Rogers Jr. as we watch his qualifying lap, and looks pretty good through turns 1 and turns 2. Gonna now watch him go into 3 and 4. Looking a little high on entry, but arcing it down off of the corner for a good exit, seeing where he's gonna wind up. Going to be a little bit towards the back of the field with a 17.585. Just in front of him, Will Dravecki has called it for himself. He's going to only do the 1 lap, and that was a 17.444, so not too bad for the 30 machine. Coming across the line now is Brian Rogers Jr., and he's going to improve his time just a little bit, get him up towards the midfield a bit with a 17.536.
So both those drivers putting in good qualifying laps there. Will DeVicky's going to slot into your 4th position. The 12 of Brian Rogers Jr. He's going to move all the way up to the 9th position. So he's going to pretty much lock himself into this field, it looks like. Next two that are going to be on track, it's going to be the 96 of Al Smith Jr. and the 18 of AJ Hamels.
Yeah, taking the track now, and looks like AJ is going to lead these two out. And AJ, another guy sporting a very festive paint scheme here tonight. Very the Arts Barbershop machine riding along on that 18 car as he comes across the start finish line, going through turns 1 and 2 now along the back straightaway. As very good looking car, I have to say. Now coming off turn 3 and 4, getting onto the apron just a little bit to help that car turn, and now going to see if that's going to help him at all, and that's going to put him towards the midfield of the 17.525, and Al Smith putting down a decent lap at 17.466. So looks like the league owner has a little bit of little bit under the hood there tonight, as he's going to call it there on just for the one lap. And where the 18 is going to wind up, not going to be able to improve his time on that second run, so that's going to be it for him.
Yeah, Al's important right now in your number 13. He's still P1 on the board, so his qualifying attempt still being good enough. The top spot. Your next group out here is going to be the group 8. That's going to be the 14 of Blake Neer. Looks like the 98 of Chris Stump, the 9 of Alex Orions, and then the 11 of Brian Hacker is going to be your 4th car in this group.
Yeah, we're getting towards the real fast drivers now as a couple of these numbers get called, and Hacker put down a pretty decent time in practice, and so did a few of these other guys. And always got to watch out for that 98 machine of Chris Stump. He was definitely fast during practice, and he's been consistently towards the top. Even though he is a rookie in this series, he does have some speed. So going to take a look now, watching the Brian Hacker in that number 11 machine. He is going to cross the start-finish line to start off this group's next qualifying attempt. Looked pretty stable through turns 1 and 2, got way down towards that white line. Now a little up high on the entry of 3 and 4. We've seen a couple of drivers do that. They enter a little bit high and then kind of push off of the corner, and that is going to work for him as he goes to a 17.433 or 443. Alex Orion's going to be up towards the front as well, and Chris Stump putting himself into the 3rd position on that lap with a 17.397.
Yeah, the 98 of Chris Stump right now in your 3rd position. And take a look on his paint job. He's supporting the Die Hard. Don't tell him Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, because, well, he's got that plastered all over that 98. And he's going to go a little bit slower there on his 2nd lap with a 17.47, so that's a little bit slower.
Yeah, it's definitely become the first lap is the faster lap because these tires are a little bit colder. They got a little bit more grip. Once you get on that 2nd lap, those tires have already heated up and worn off enough that it doesn't make a difference. So for a lot of these drivers are calling it after the 1st lap. You guys may think that they made a mistake on the 1st lap and they think that they can improve a little bit, but it's been rare to see the any actual improvements coming from these second runs.
Your next group out there, the 9th group out here on track, that's going to be led by the 24 of Sean Cool. Sean Cool sporting the Hershey Designs Company on the hood of that card here this evening. Also, you got the 20. It looks like a Justin McDuff out there. And right behind him is going to be the 88 of Jake Watson. And I believe there's actually one more car out there. I believe that's in a different group, though. It looks like the 69, your points leader of Matt Coker, is going to be out there also.
Yeah, some very fast drivers here. Going to have to keep an eye on those leaderboards, see where these drivers are going to wind up. Watson crosses the start-finish line. He's going to put himself into 2nd place. Not enough to take down Guillaume Fortin. Doesn't look like any of these guys are going to have enough to take down Guillaume, as a lot of them are calling it after the one lap there. Guillaume was, I guess, just got a little bit of the found that speed right at the right time, and didn't start he started quite early, as he hasn't had some great finishes the last couple races due to some technical issues on his own end, but Guillaume was able to put down a very fast lap, and I think that is going to almost guarantee him the pole. I think we're still looking for a couple more drivers, though. I think it's just the 2 and the 31. Oh, speaking of, Matt Cucker he was actually on that racetrack still and just decided to make a late run. Matt Cucker is going to take the fast time as he beats out Guillaume Fortin by 0.06 of a second. And I thought Matt Cucker had already finished his run, but he was kind of just hanging back behind that group.
Yeah, I wasn't sure there. I saw that the 69 was called to make his qualifying attempt, and I did not see him out there on track. He was hiding from us, and he's going to put that 69 up front there on pole. Hopefully he can hold it. It looks like there's one more guy to qualify out there. That's going to be the two Stefan Marinak.
Well, Steph Marinak kind of running on his own out there was just kind of the odd man out after all the groups had been sorted. Running that Florida Gators paint scheme as usual, but a little bit more of a Christmas theme it looks like he has on that car.
Yeah, sporting the Florida Gators with a little bit of snow. I'm wondering if he knows it doesn't snow in Florida too often, but some snow on that car. As you see him on his first lap, he's going to go to 16th on the board with a 17.518. Let's see if his second lap as he works through. It looks like turn 3 and 4 right here, coming off 4, kind of having to get out of it. Not going to better his time there. He's going to go with a 17.587 there on his second lap. So he's going to slot into 16th. So he'll lock himself into the field here tonight. He won't have to go to the last chance qualifier, but we do have a couple guys who are going to slot back there. You're going to have, looks like 8 guys competing for 6 spots here this evening.
Yeah, it looks like. But this qualifying session is going to lock in our pole sitter, and that is going to be the 69 of Matt Cucker. So Matt Cucker will take the Rumar Vinyl Designs pole award. And Matt, who's always been kind of a self-described not very good at qualifying and has been struggling with qualifying this season, he has said after post races a lot that just kind of handcuffs himself by qualifying poorly and then has to work through the traffic to get towards the front. But tonight he's going to have just the whole track to himself at the start of this race. As mentioned, he beat Guillaume Fortin by 0.06 of a second.
Going to start here on pole, and the defending champ, he's like you said, he's going to start on the pole, have a great view out the front windshield after last week's win. So he's just going to pick up right where he left off last week.
Well, that's going to do it for qualifying, and in a moment we will be seeing the first ever last chance qualifier for the Upstate Racing League Coaches Corner Pro Late Model Series. So stick around, you're going to want to watch this and see how these guys take on this new challenge.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
This portion of the Upstate Racing League's Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series on MaxSpeedTV is brought to you by NHR, Eddie's Meat Market, Devil's Bowl Speedway, Vermont's fastest half mile, Atomic Graphics.
Welcome back to the Five Flags Speedways. We're getting ready to go for our first ever last chance qualifier in the Upstate Racing League Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series. And going through our last chance qualifying grid, Brian Rogers is going to be starting in first. Second place is going to be Wayne McDuff. Josh Mayu rolls off in third. Matt Roll rolls off in fourth place. And Andy Lambert rounds out the top 5 of this LCQ.
Next guy in line is going to be the 45 of Doug Wysocki in 6th. Brett Bartell is going to roll off 7th. Thomas Matier going to come 8th. And Jay Dubuque's going to round out your last chance qualifying, starting in the 9th position.
Quick reminder that the top 6 move on to the race. So 6th place is the important place, but the pace car goes down and away. We're going to get ready for our first bit of racing action here on the track for tonight. Green flag is out. And a good start from Brian Rogers, going to get him clear of that 413 machine before turn number 1. Now the 413 is going to be able to slot in. Looks like the 90 of Roll is kind of stuck on that high side, trying to get himself down to that bottom line. Bit of a stack up a little bit further back, though. Brett Bartels gets caught up by the 89 slowing up a little bit, and that forces him to kind of make a move to dodge him. And big.
45 of Doug Wysocki getting turned by, it looks like possibly the 89 of Thomas Matier. That's going to bring out a yellow here on lap number 2 of this first heat race, the only heat race here. Bunch of damage to the 45. Let's see if KR, you got a replay for us over there?
That I do. Our replay is fired up, ready to go. Didn't quite get back far enough on that one, so we'll try this once again. You see these drivers dive down into the corner. Tom Matier right down on the white line. Doug Wysocki trying to get all he can as well. And both those guys just running out of room. And then the 65 of Jay Dubuque wouldn't know where to go as well.
So 4 cars involved in that caution, our first caution of the night in this last chance qualifying. And taking a look at the field, currently Brett Bartels sits in that cutoff position, but there's some heavy damage to that 42 machine. Looks like some damage to the front end, and his back end definitely pushed in after he got a good shot from the 65 machine running into him as they got involved in that accident. So quick accident for a number of drivers. It doesn't seem like anyone is out of this race yet. I think everyone's going to still at least attempt to run this off, and I think there's hopefully there's no terminal damage to that 45 machine, because he hit that inside wall pretty hard and it could have damaged that engine just a little bit.
Yeah, with that front end damage on the 45, you're going to have to question now, does he or will he have an overheating problem? We see a little tire mark on the driver's side door of that car, but I believe the guy who got tore up the most, that's going to be the 89 of Thomas Matier. He's going to be back in your 9th position. He has a bunch of front end damage and a bunch of rear end damage after being hit there a couple times.
It looks like. Well, remember, these guys are only fighting for the top 6 spots. So Brian Rogers, from Brian Rogers to Brett Bartels, it doesn't matter what position they finish in, they get in the race. They're just they can kind of move themselves up a position, kind of a grid spot, but it's all as long as they stay above 6. I don't think so. I don't think the top 6 drivers are really the top 5 are going to be battling it out. It's going to be, 6th place trying to hold on while the guys behind him try to take that last spot. But pace car now down and away. We're going to get back to racing in just one moment. Green flag in the air, and Brian Rogers getting another great jump and clears the 413 before they even make it to the start finish line that time. So some good timing by the number 12 car.
Battle right now, though, that's going to be for your 3rd position between the 02 of Josh Mayu and the 77 of Lambert. Lambert's still stuck there on the outside. Those guys are right now in the transfer spot. They're going to go single file, possibly the 77 looking to cross over as they go into 1. There you see it, the 77 now to the inside of the 02 of Josh Mayu. But back here at the back right now, your last transfer spot here this evening is going to be the 42 of Brett Bartels. That's going to be your 6th place guy. He's going to try and hang on, as right now it looks like Jay Dubuque coming up on him. Thought he had a run there, but Jay decided not to stick his nose in there. He backed off and let the 42 have the position for now, as we still have 17 laps to go here in this one.
Oh, a little bit of problems for the 42. He got just a little bit too low on the racetrack, hit the apron, and got loose off of 2. Somehow held on to it, didn't lose too much speed, but you can use that apron to help your car turn. But right now, there's such little grip, and he actually takes out the pit exit cone that time by, as he's trying to get as close as possible to the inside with his line, and really just defending from the 65 right now.
And you see that 42 of Brett Bartels, he has a lot of rear end damage, so maybe that might be playing a little bit of factor here with the handling of that car, or maybe it's just him getting too much of the left side tires down on that apron. But it looks like right now Jay Dubuque is going to be under attack by the 98 of Mateer. That's the battle for the 7th position. That's not a transfer spot, but the 89 knows he has to get around the 65 and then possibly run down the 42, as he's going to have the inside advantage. The 65 is going to give way, go high, so the 89 is going to get by, and it looks like Doug Wysocki also in the 45 is going to get around the 65 of Jay Dubuque.
And all these drivers at the back here running with damage, and they're trying to see if they can overcome that damage to chase down the 42. And the 42 has some damage as well, a little bit to the front, a little bit to the rear, but so far it's not slowing him down one bit, as he's holding on quite well, putting down some decent times and hanging with Matt Roll. And there's a few laps that looked like he was going to take a look to try to pass Roll, but kind of decided to back out at the last moment. And when that did happen, that allowed Jay Dubuque to kind of have a chance to take a look at the 42, but he could never quite set anything up. So I think the damage the 65 got is as little as it may have seemed. I didn't think he really got hit as hard as a few of these other drivers in that accident, but it seems to be affecting him quite a bit.
Yeah, it may not look like cosmetic damage on the 65 of Jay Dubuque, but you never know what happened underneath of the suspension parts on that car. Out front, though, it's still going to be the 12 of Brian Rogers, Wayne McDuff there in 2nd, Andy Lambert 3rd, Josh Mayu 4th, Matt Roll 5th, and the transfer spot still the 42 of Brett Bartels. Everybody out front's single filed out. They know they're locked in right now, so they don't need to get to battling with 10 to go, 9 to go this time at the line.
Yeah, not too long left of this 25-lap heat race, as Mateer is still trying to chase down Bartels, and looks like Brian Rogers Jr. is still holding on to this LCQ lead over Wayne McDuff and Andy Lambert, as those 3 drivers aren't really pushing all too hard, as they know they're safely in this race. All that they can gain from a pass here is just one spot on the grid for the main event. So really, these guys aren't pushing all too hard. They're just trying to survive this hot and slippery track at this moment. Is actually looking at the track now, it's quite cool considering compared to what we saw earlier. So I think a cloud has just rolled over, and that track's now down to 99 degrees Fahrenheit.
You know, when we started this last chance qualifying race here, the track temp was up to 118. It just keeps going back and forth. We talked about that dynamic clouds earlier, and the weather and how it's going to play a factor. As you see that happening right here, is the lap times are still pretty good compared to what they would have been if the track would have stayed warm and slippery. You know, that cloud cover's making these guys go quicker and quicker yet.
5 to go now in the LCQ, and Mateer, Wysocki, and Dubuque need to find something to catch up to Brett Bartels, as Bartels has kind of gapped Mateer by about almost a second now. So Mateer has got to find some speed to be able to give himself a chance to make the show, but coming across the line this time by, it's still about a second between him and Bartels. So there's some problems now for that 89 machine. He almost has to hope for the 42 to make a mistake.
It doesn't look like the 42 is going to make a mistake just yet this time at the line. Only a handful of laps here left. The 42 is kind of running a little bit of a different line than he was earlier. He kind of moved up the track on his entry. Does suck it down back onto the white line as they come through the middle of the corner in 1 and 2. 3 and 4, though, he stays a little bit higher. So he's not trying to overdrive the car. He knows he has a lead right now over the 89. He just has to hold that position and not make a mistake, not find the wall here with 2 to go.
Yeah, driving that car safely, even though it is damaged. Luckily for him, he will get a clean car going into the main event, but white flag now in the air for Brian Rogers. And Rogers leading over McDuff, and McDuff gonna probably play it safe. Maybe now though with the last lap, he may try to make a move, but not quite close enough. He is gonna lunge forward on the exit of the corner, but not enough to get himself to alongside the 12. So Brian Rogers will win the last chance qualifier, and that will lock in the 12, the 413 of Wayne McDuff, the 77 of Andy Lambert, the 02 of Josh Mayu, the 90 of Matt Roll, and the 6 of Brett Bartels.
All those drivers will lock themselves into the main event here tonight, the Snowflake 100, presented by the Hansons Starter Shop. A couple of those guys, unfortunately, going to have to load up those cars, and they're going to have to head out to next week's track just a little bit early.
A little bit of a warm-up now for these guys as they get to feel out the track one last time before going on to the main event, as we do have the track now sitting at a nice 113 degrees. And looking at the actual temperature though, I don't think the air temperature has changed at all. I've seen the winds move a little bit, but the air temp has stayed pretty stable at 76 degrees. So really right now the only thing that's affecting this track is the cars themselves and the clouds and sun.
Yeah, we saw that play factor there. Actually, for our qualifying, as we were away, we did see one last guy come out and take a qualifying attempt. That was going to be the 31 of Brad Carpenter. He was having connection issues. He did come out while we were at commercial break right before that last chance qualifying. He did take the pole from the 69 of Matt Coker. And while, you know, we went to commercial, we saw nobody was on track, and that allowed the track temp to really cool down a bunch. And the 31 went out there and put down a screaming lap and kind of stole the pole away from that.
Yeah, that just goes to show the effects of the track temperature has on lap times. Is he cut a full 1/10 of a second off just because he waited, or well, not just because it took a little bit before his car was able to get on the track. The track was able to cool off a little bit because there wasn't any cars running around on it, and that just allowed him to just get a lot of grip during his qualifying run and just put down a absolutely screaming lap time. Well, now we're going to step away for just one moment as we go and play our national anthems, both for the United States and for Canada, before we get on to our main event.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rackets regular, the
This portion of the Upstate Racing League's Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series is brought to you by Coach's Corner. There's no place like home. Airborne Graphics. Arts Barbershop. White Knuckle Clothing. Best Colorful Creations. And Brian Rogers Motorsports, proud sponsor of the Brian Rogers Motorsports Rookie of the Year.
And now on to our main event, the Snowflake 100 presented by Hansons Starter Shop. Rolling off in pole position, that's the 31 of Brad Carpenter, as mentioned, with that blistering fast qualifying time. On his outside, that's the 69 of Matt Cucker. Sure, he's going to want to try to take back that position as soon as possible. Guillaume Fortin starts on in third position. Jake Watson actually, I think, misses the grid, so that's going to be huge for the championship. Dylan Canova going to be in 5th. Chris Stump in 6th. Sean Cool in 7th. 8th is Justin McDuff. Alex Orions in 9th. And James McIntyre Jr. rounds out the top 10 with Brian Hacker, the 11 starting in 11th. Will Javicki in 12th. 13th is Blake Neer. And 14th is Al Smith Jr.
Starting in your 15th position, that's going to be the one of Jeremy Carpenter. Paul Henley's going to start 16th. Stefan Marinak's going to grid there in the 17th spot. Mike Holtzclaw not going to make the grid here. AJ Hamels, though, 19th. Danny Dubuque, 20th. Brian Rogers Jr. going to start 21st. Wayne McDuff in the 22nd position. Andy Lambert, 23rd. Looks like Josh Mayu, 24th. Matt Roll, 25th. And Brett Bartels there in the 26th. As the green flag is out, we're racing here from the Five Flags Raceway.
Matt Cucker now immediately trying to go for the race lead, getting a bit of a bump to the 31 machine as those guys are battling it out for the race lead, and it just looks like the inside line is going to be the dominant line to start this race. But if anyone can make the high side work, it's the driver of that 69 machine of Matt Cucker. Matt's still not backing off just yet, as he knows he's got some life in those tires. Even though he has to take those tires all the way to the end of the race, he doesn't want to lose out to Guillaume, and Guillaume putting on some good defensive driving, actually making a slight mistake there. It allows the 70 of Dylan Canova to take a look to the inside, but not quite able to make a move just yet. And now the 69 kind of starting to lose out to 31, so Brad Carpenter going to have a open track around him, but Matt Cucker can't move down just yet, as Guillaume now has moved to his inside.
Looks like pretty much everybody else is single filed out except for your top 2 here. Looks like Guillaume's still going to have that advantage on the inside lane there. Matt Cucker kind of giving way. Now he's going to go door to door with the 70 of Dylan Canova, and that's going to be for your 3rd position. So you wonder now, as the 69 kind of gave up on the outside, is he going to try and just roll through? As there's contact between him and the 89 or the 98 of Chris Stump. That's going to put Cucker back now a couple more positions. Now he's going to be battling to try and stay inside the top 5 there, right in front of Sean Cool.
And that almost caused problems between Cool and McDuff as they tried to check up, seeing the 69 go sideways a little bit. Some good driving by Cucker to hold on to that car, but he's now lost a ton of ground as he realized that the outside isn't working. He's just wearing down his tires, trying to battle up there, and decided to fall back, but he was just kind of freight trained back there and stuck on the high side. Couldn't get to the bottom side until he got all the way back here into 5th place.
And that looks like, looking through the field, everybody's pretty much single filed out. There's no racing right now, but the 31 of Brad Carpenter still going to lead the way here, working lap number 7. Guillaume Fortin going to be there right in his 2nd position, and Dylan Canova in your 3rd position. Then there's a little bit of a gap back to the 4th place of Chris Stump, and the 69 of Coker, who started in the 2nd place, is back to 5th place right now.
Well, I'm sure Carpenter had a bit of a chip on his shoulder going into this after that qualifying. Decided he wanted to show that it wasn't just a fluke, it wasn't just the weather that helped him get the pole position. He is a fast driver, and he's showing that now as he's holding off some of the fastest guys in the league, as Guillaume Fortin trying to get around him. He already held off Matt Cucker, and in where I would say Matt Cucker is probably the best, and Matt is really good on the starts and really good on the high side, and Brad was able to hold him off, but now he's facing some extreme pressure from Guillaume, as Guillaume is getting right up to the bumper of that 31 machine.
Yeah, G-Man there in the 13 in the Charlie Brown car, one of those 09 Motorsports guys. They're no slouches. He's a quick guy. We know that. We missed him early in the year. He missed the first race of the season, but he's come on ever since then, having great finishes throughout the top 10. Right now running second place there to the 31 of Brad Carpenter. So Brad kind of just out there setting the pace, as they have kind of pulled a little bit of a gap there. If you look back, it looks like he has about a half-second gap, or a whole second gap, sorry, back to the 4th place runner of Chris Stump.
Battle for lead shaping up though, as Guillaume continues to put pressure on the 31, just looking for a mistake, and actually almost a bit of a mistake from the 13 as he kind of just exits a little bit too high, kind of got out of his throttle just a little bit. As the 31 though, Brad Carpenter running very consistent lines right now. He's keeping his cool, and I believe this is his first time leading at any point during an Upstate Racing League races. I know this was his first career pole position for the Upstate Racing League, so he is keeping a cool head, showing that he's not getting rattled by seeing that 13 car in his rearview mirror. And now actually a slight mistake from him almost looked like through turn number 4 there, and that allowed Guillaume to get right up to his bumper.
As you're talking about Cool, looking back in the field, the 24 of Sean Cool was just side by side for about 2 laps there with the 81 of James McIntyre. They settled it out. Looks like the 24 of Cool is going to go around him, but now looking back in the field, looks like Brian Hacker in the 11 and Blake Neer still side by side. That's the battle for the 9th and the 10th position. Let's see if we can go on board with Al Smith, who's just right behind this battle, seeing them guys work it out. 14 of Neer right now is going to be on the outside there of the 11 of Brian Hacker. You see Al kind of slip up there coming through 3 and 4. He kind of exited a little high. Now those two in front of them going to sort it out. Blake Neer is going to take over the 9th position, and it looks like Brian Hacker is going to fall to 10th.
I think it's the first time we've seen the outside line win out here, so it's possible that the inside line's starting to heat up. So maybe Guillaume could try making a move on the outside of the 31 car, but if he waits too long, we might have a bit too much marbles built up there, as I'm starting to see some tire rubber getting thrown up to that high line and starting to build up on the outside. So, actually, taking a look there, it looks like the 70 almost clipped the wall coming off of turn number 4. So these guys are getting very tight to that inside line as they get very close in turn 1 to the pit wall, and turn 4, the 70 almost skipped off of that thing.
Yeah, you saw the same thing I did. Is right now a 3-car breakaway from the field right now. Brad Carpenter's still out front. He's led all 20 laps so far here tonight. Guillaume Fortin right there in the 2nd position, and Dylan Canova. Those are your top 3, and they've pulled about a 1.5 seconds back, or 1.5 seconds lead right now to your 4th place. That's still going to be held by the number 98 of Chris Stump. Matt Coker back there, still holding down your 5th position. Justin McDuff in 6th. Sean Cool 7th. James McIntyre at 8th. It looks like Blake Neer still in 9th, and Brian Hacker's going to round out your top 10 right now.
It's almost looking like 410 is a faster driver. He's kind of lurching forward every time in the middle of a corner, and then has to back out as he realizes there's nowhere for him to go. So I think the 13 just needs to watch the 31 a little bit more, find out where Carpenter is going, on where his line is, and look for an opening. Oh, a bit of a bump though from Canova given to 410 as they go into turn 3 there. So looks like Canova not exactly impressed with the 13's pace that last lap, as the 13 kind of laid off a little bit and was kind of just watching the 31 go, and Canova just kind of gave him a shot going, hey, I'm still here, don't forget about me, I'm involved in this fight too. This is definitely shaping up to be a 3-way battle for the lead, but gonna have to see where it's gonna wind up, because the 13, while he's got the pace, just can't quite find a way around the 31.
Yeah, there's nowhere for the 13 of the G-Man to go anywhere, because the 31 of Brad Carpenter still setting the pace, still leading the way. And it's not like Brad Carpenter is that much slower. It's just that possibly just a better run for the 13 through the center of the corner. Is right now you kind of got about a car length between your front 2, that possibly being because of the number 70 of Canova getting into the back of the 13 there. You also can tell there's a little bit of a different line. It looks like the 31 of Carpenter is kind of entering a little high and then coming back down, while the 13's being a little more defensive, you could say, in his driving style, trying to hold off the number 70 of Canova.
Yeah, now it's starting to kind of cost Guillaume a little bit. He's now focused on defending, and he's kind of lost a bit of ground to the 31, and we're seeing the gaps between these three cars kind of change a lot as each one tries something different, and if it works out, then they lurch forward. If it doesn't work out, they drop back, and they're all trying to find different things and feel out this racetrack at the moment and figure out where this grip is. And it's seeming like it is the inside, but if everyone's running that inside line, no one's going to go anywhere. And now this track is heated up to 121 degrees because of everyone running that same spot. So someone's going to eventually try this high line, and when they do it, they may find some good grip up there.
If you look on timing and scoring right now, it looks like your fourth place guy, the number 98 of Chris Stump, he's kind of pulled a little bit closer to the leaders. He was a little over a half a second back from them. Now a little under a half a second at 1.4 seconds back as he runs by himself there. Nobody really that close in front of him, and it looks like the 69 of Cucker is a little bit farther back from him. Everybody throughout the field, though, single filed out. I see no battles really right now, no side-by-side battles, at least as I say that now. It looks like the 77 of Andy Lambert's going to go to the inside of the 12 of Brian Rogers as they work out of turn 4. Lambert had one heck of a run going down the backstretch. He threw it to the inside. Rogers knew he was coming, kind of let him have the easier route to the inside, but he's still going to fight back on the outside. He's not going to give it up that easy. In that number 12 Pepsi machine is right behind them. Also AJ Hamels there, just holding on to his 19th position now. It looks like the 77 of Lambert's going to clear the 12 this lap going down into turn 1. So that's going to put the AJ Hamels and the number 12 of Rogers side by side, as now the 12 of Rogers looks like he possibly just kind of pulled over for AJ and let the 18 go right by him.
Looking back up front in the battle for the race lead, it's still these three drivers just trying to find a way around each other. Neither one wanting to open up any bit, and Dylan Canova actually looked like he may have tapped the wall coming off of turn 2 that time, and looks like he lost a ton of ground. And really, that's what's going to make the difference in this battle, this three-way battle, is you just got to wait for one of these guys to make a mistake, because they're just so evenly matched, as no one's really excelling so far in overall. Everyone's kind of got their own place that they're a bit faster, and you know, 410's a little bit quicker through the middle of a corner, but Carpenter seems to have a great launch off the corner. As I say that, Guillaume gets right up to the bumper of the 31, and there was also a little bit of a wiggle from that 13 machine as he went through the middle of the corner.
You can still see two distinct different lines there between the 31 of Carpenter and the 13 of Thornton. Thornton running that bottom lane there, and Carpenter still running about a half car length off the bottom. As you see it right there, you can see the 13 just has the momentum coming in and through the middle, and just not able to put the power down because he has nowhere to go. That green car right in front of him just hogging up all the lanes. Looks like the 70 of Canova, though, is losing pace a little bit, falling back here, as there's a dive to the inside. Contact between the 13 and the 31. That's going to send the 31 of Carpenter up the track. Now Guillaume Forin's going to take over the lead, but the 70 of Canova is going to go around him on the outside. Not quite clear going into turn 3. Your big loser, though, is going to be the 31. He's going to fall all the way back to 4th place, and while that all happened, here comes the 98 of Chris Stump. Now he's in striking distance if these front two leaders stay side by side.
Now we're going to see if the inside line is still better than the outside line, as we've seen a lot of temperature built up on that inside, so there may be a little bit of grip for the 70 to work with, but everyone's been running the inside for so long. There's a lot of rubber that's been thrown up there, a lot of like loose marbles, so that's going to affect the 70 just a little bit, as he's still holding on, though, not quite cleared by that 13 machine. And I don't know if there's much damage to that 13 car, as there was just a little bit of a light contact between him and the 31. The 31, though, looks a little bit banged up from the bumping and banging they did. 13 now going to get clear of Canova going through turns 1 and 2. So now Canova still actually looking on that high line, though, going into turns 3 and 4. And here comes Stump now. Stump's now closed the gap, and now Canova is going to try to cross him up. Goes diving down the inside through the start-finish straight, and is going to get to the inside through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, the leaders are still going to be side by side. Now Dylan Canova to the inside of the 13 of Ford. But don't look now, because right here comes the number 98 of Chris Stump. He's now back on the back bumper of these two, as they're still side by side trying to figure out. Looks like the 13 is going to be a little bit ahead that time, so he's going to lead a lap there. Canova's back to second, but you see Canova get that great run off the inside, as they are literally door-to-door going down the backstretch into turn 3.
Yeah, 410 may have caught the wall coming off the corner last time around, but he didn't affect his speed all that much. It was just kind of a light scrape, but now we're kind of shaping up to a 4-car, maybe even a 5-car battle, as that 20 machine starts to get himself involved into this little pack here. Justin McDuff not wanting to give up the points race here, as he's just I think a point behind or just a couple points behind Matt Cucker after the last race. So he wants to kind of make some ground up, but still this battle is between the 13 and the 70 as they are still completely even up. Neither one of them giving up an inch, and they've still got a lot of racing to go. And as we've mentioned, this is the only set of tires they have. So if they battle it out too hard, they may wear off those rubbers and they won't have anything left at the end of this race. So now we're just 5 laps, coming up to 5 laps away from our halfway point. It's still a side-by-side battle between the 13 and the 70.
Still a battle up here. As a couple laps ago, we saw the number 70 of Dylan Canova on the inside lane get all out of shape, but he held on to it. And then you saw the 13 get a little loose also on the top end. But right now, it looks like the 13's battling on the outside and possibly making that outside work, as you see another wiggle out of the 70 machine. So now this time at the line, the 13's going to have the advantage, and he's going to have about a half car going into turn 1, but they're side by side still. It looks like the 13 is just able to carry the momentum off the corner. The 70 possibly used up his tires running that inside lane, putting a little more heat in those tires. As now you see the number 98 of Chris Stump. He's going to go to the outside. Not enough room coming off turn 4. They're going to go single file. Now the 13 of Fortin's going to have the lead here over the 70 of Canova.
And as that was happening, the 20 of Justin McDuff got around Brad Carpenter. Now Brad's fallen all the way back to the 5th spot. Now going to drop back into 6th as the 69 of Matt Cucker going to make a move on him right now. And Brad Carpenter has got falling fast as he's got a banged up race car after getting into the 13 machine, and he was able to hold on to it safe. He was able to hold on to it when he made the initial contact, and now getting into the wall, as Roger mentioned, that has put some more damage on that car. Now that right side of the machine's banged up, and yellow flag now. Caution somewhere on the racetrack. Looks like it is not able to see it just yet.
Could possibly involve the number 9 of Alex Oriens back there, and also I believe.
Yeah,
I believe the 9 is out there smoking on track, possibly engine damage. Well, I shouldn't say possibly. We know that looks like engine damage on the 9 machine. KR, let's see if you can go back on a replay and find out what happened there to the number 9.
All right, we're checking out our replay here. You see he gets loose into the corner, sliding up into the wall, heavy contact with the wall. We're going to take one more shot at this to see exactly what led to that, as the 30 of Will Dravicki is going to get into the back of the 9 machine. The 9's going to overcorrect, and then, oh man, he gets into that outside wall very hard, heavy damage, gets it rolling, but then down the straightaway, that engine is going to let go. You're going to see it start smoking, and I think that 9 is done tonight. Poor old Alex, don't call me Oreo, KR, done for the night.
Well, now this is going to change up our battle for the race lead, as now it's going to group them all up once more, but it's also going to let Canova make an attempt on the outside line. We saw last time that Guillaume was able to hold off on the outside, but it's also going to allow some of these guys to cool off their tires a little bit. And speaking of that, Canova going all the way up to the wall. As I mentioned, I think it was last week, that the 69 machine does this. He stays high on the racetrack, way up high, to get away from the warmer parts of the track. This allows his tires to cool off a little bit more, which allows him to maybe grip a little bit. But at the same time, if he does this for too long, he'll have a lot of rubber buildup on his tires. So when they get stacked up double file once again, he's got to make sure that he stays out of those marbles and wears off a little bit of that rubber before we get back to green flag racing.
As we're talking about track conditions and tires and everything else here, it looks like the track temp now sitting around a cool 116 degrees. So we're going to see if there's going to be a little bit of tire spin maybe on this restart, as we are 54 or working lap 54 out of 100 here. So they got 54 laps on these tires, and this is the only tires that these drivers will have, as we saw that possibly playing a factor with the 31 of Brad Carpenter, who was your pole center here to start the race. Then he got into a little bit of scuffle with the 13. Now he finds himself all the way back in 7th, as he did slot 4th and then slid a couple more positions from there.
We'll have to see if he's going to be able to recover. And speaking of recoveries, looks like a couple of drivers have recovered from a kind of poor showing in qualifying. Justin McDuff coming from 8th to go all the way up to 4th. Blake Neer from 13th up to 8th. Steph Marinac from 17th to 13th. Looking at Andy Lambert as well, going from 23rd to 17th. So a couple of these drivers have improved quite a bit from the start of this race.
Absolutely, as it looks like we're getting bunched up here to possibly go back. Green flag racing, excuse me. Green flag racing here. It looks like the pace car is going to dive in this time. The 13's back to the loud pedal. We're back to racing here from Five Flags. The 13 and G-Man is going to get one heck of a start. Now it looks like the battle, though, is going to be for the second position between the number 70 of Canova and Chris Stump. Chris Stump's going to go to the inside. He's going to clear him coming off turn 2. So now it's going to be the 13, the 98, and the 70. But hold on, don't count that yet, because here comes the 69 of Cucker. He's looking to the inside now of the 70 of Canova. Did Canova go to the top side and maybe put some marbles on the tires of that number 70 and not get him cleaned off before the restart? Because now the 69's around him, and now he's going to be worried about, is he going to be able to hold off the number 20 of Justin McDuff?
It looks like the inside line cooled off enough to make that inside line dominant once again. So now the 70 is losing out, and losing out quite a bit. Is kind of the same thing that happened to Cucker to start this race. That's what's kind of happening to Canova at this moment. Is Canova now going to be able to slot in behind Sean Cool, and that's going to put him all the way back into 6th from 2nd. And this is pretty much exactly what happened to Cucker at the start of this race. And now going to our battle for the race lead, that's starting to shape up. Looks like Chris Stump has got his eyes set on 410. Now Stump started in 6th, now moved himself up into 2nd, but at the same time he's got Matt Cucker kind of breathing down his neck, and Justin McDuff is putting on some pressure to Cucker as well. So kind of a little bit of our points leaders here all battling it out on the racetrack.
And there's another battle a little bit farther back in the field for that 8th position. The 14 of Blake Neer and the 81 of James McIntyre. They've been side by side. A little contact there coming off turn 4. It looks like maybe it's just a little hip check. The 14 is going to clear him, but now that's going to put the 81 there of McIntyre side by side with Al Smith, and Al Smith's going to go a little high coming off turn 2, so they're going to single file out now for that position. Al Smith's going to fall, or still retain your 10th position.
Now Al Smith taking a look to the inside of the 81, going to see if he can get around James McIntyre Jr., and that inside line is dominant once more, as it's lost quite a bit of heat through the during the caution period. It's now we've got the track surface down to 116 degrees. It was at over 121 before the caution waved, and that's allowed the inside line to kind of work its way out once more. And now looking again at Dylan Canova, he's all the way down to 8th now, and so there was definitely some struggles for that 70 machine. He's got to recover and recover soon, because that is a huge hit that he has taken.
Started on the outside there in position number 2. Now back to the 8th position, the number 70 of Canova. A little bit ahead of him, you see Blake Neer right in front of him, and Brad Carpenter still out there running inside your top 10. It's currently 6th right now. Sean Cool has moved up inside your top 5, along with the number 20 of Justin McDuff. 3rd place is going to be the 69 of Coker. He's making his way back to the front after sliding on your initial start. And it looks like the 98 of Chris Stump's going to be 2nd, and G-Man in the 13. That's Guillaume out front right now.
Yeah, Guillaume getting a lot of pressure now from the 98. Chris Stump getting right up to the bumper, now making a look to the inside. Is going to be able to make the move. Guillaume is going to give him room. He doesn't shut the door, and I think actually him making that late move caused Guillaume to stutter going into the entrance, and kind of missed his turning point, as he was way up the racetrack through the middle and exit of turns 3 and 4, and that's caused him to get stuck on that high side. Now he's lost a position to Cucker, and now he's losing a position to McDuff, as now he's got to recover as he scrapes the wall going into turn number 1, and now he's actually may lose a position to Sean Cool.
Yeah, now he's got a battle with the 24 of Sean Cool. Sean Cool is to the inside in that green car. It looks like he's going to pass him going into turn 3. Guillaume's just going to try and get back to the bottom. He knows he doesn't want to be stuck out there, even though there's a little bit of a distance back to the 31 of Brad Carpenter. Now it looks like Guillaume looking to the inside of the 24. 24 shuts the door, not enough room for the 13. So he's just going to hold that 13 in P5 right now. But you got a new leader out there. You got the man out there. Chris Stump, he's going to take over the lead. Matt Cucker's going to fall into 2nd. Justin McDuff now in your 3rd position.
Yeah, and Chris Stump now holding on to about a 4/10 of a second lead over Cucker, and Cucker can't really push too hard to catch up to Stump, because he's got to worry about McDuff right behind him, putting some pressure on. So McDuff trying to find a way to get around Cucker so that he can start chasing after Stump. But if he battles Cucker too early, they might lose out on Chris Stump. But looks like Cucker is kind of keeping even with Stump at this moment.
As that's your battle on track for your 2nd position between the 20 of McDuff and the 69 of Matt Cucker. Both these drivers, smart drivers, both these drivers finished in your top 3 last week, so they know how to save the tires for the end. We still got quite a few laps here to go tonight, so as it looks like 29 to go, 28 to go once we get back to the line. So there's still a lot of racing left here to be done. They're just going to hang on for those tires. It looks like they're kind of pulling away right now from the 24 Sean Kuhl, who sits in the 4th place.
Yes, Sean is starting to lose out on these guys, but he still holds a kind of a decent gap over the 13 of Guillaume Fortin, who once he slotted into 5th, just lost out quite a little bit of speed as he kind of had to recover from that mistake he made when Stump made that pass for the position. And looking just behind them, Brad Carpenter now just losing out on a spot to Blake Neer, actually still trying to fight for it, but that damaged race car can only do so much, as now he's also may lose out to the 70. That 70 nearly scraping that wall off of turn 4 once more as he's getting way to the inside. Oh, actually giving a bit of a bump to the 31 there as Canova trying to recover after his mistake on the this last restart. So he's trying to get himself back into that battle for the race lead, but to do so he's got to get around a lot of cars.
And talking about your race lead, it's still going to be the number 98 at Chris Stump out front, kind of pulling maybe away just a tad there on the 69. The 69 holding Justin McDuff at bay right now. So those 3 cars, and then you got a little bit of a gap back to Sean Kuhl still. So single file here at the front for your top 3, top 4 guys. See Mac Tucker kind of searching around, trying to find a different groove right now, hopefully to cool his tires and catch back up to Stump.
Yeah, Cucker hasn't been gaining time, but hasn't really been losing time. Just been kind of hovering around that almost 4/10 of a second gap to Chris Stump, as he just can't quite find where his where he can improve his line. Is they're kind of running almost the same line throughout this racetrack, as so neither one of them really gaining or pulling away on the other. Cucker kind of gaining a small amount of time on that last lap, but not really a noticeable difference right now. Is kind of McDuff as well starting to lose out a little bit to the 69.
Yeah, no real battle inside your top 5, top 6. Your closest cars to each other are going to be the battle here between the 31 of Carpenter and the 70 of Canova, as Canova seems to be the faster of the 2 here, just not able to get around that 31 as you see him dive into the corner. There's nowhere for him to go right now. That's pretty much your closest battle. After that, you got to go back here to your 9th position between the 96 of Al Smith and the 18 of AJ Hamill, rounding out your top 10 there. Not too much going on. Stefan Miranak, though, up into your 11th position. He started 17th on the grid, up to the 11th position.
Yeah, I believe our biggest mover, though, taking a quick look, might be AJ Hamill just in front of Miranak, as Hamill started in 19th, moved himself all the way up into the top 10 here, and still trying to find some more positions as he's all over the bumper, the 96. 96 making a bit of a mistake there off turn number 4, and that allowed AJ Hamill to get right up to the bumper, but there was nowhere for him to go as he was actually following just kind of a little bit too close when the 96 made that mistake. So luckily he didn't get into the rear end of Al Smith, and these guys will continue to race clean, but I'm sure AJ Hamill is going to find a gap as soon as he can.
Yeah, AJ Hamill looking to try and get around that 96. It looks like he's possibly a little bit quicker, and if he gets around the 96, he could possibly set his eyes on the 70 of Canova, who we just saw go into the corner there into turn 3 and get a big wiggle out of the 70, but he hangs on to it. It's still single file here for your 7th, 8th, 9th position, but they're all nose to tail. Any little slip up from any of these guys, they're possibly going to lose a position here. I'm waiting to see possibly if the 18 of AJ is going to go to the outside here and try and get around the 96 of Al Smith, because right on his heels is going to be the 2 of Stefan Miranak.
Looking back up to the front of the field, though, is Chris Stump is now opening a huge gap over Matt Cucker. That's actually a half second now, and at the same time, Cucker's got a gap of a half a second over McDuff. So it's showing that Cucker is still driving quick, but Stump is just pulling away, and so Chris Stump has figured something out right now. I don't know if he's just saved the tires a little bit better than Cucker, as we're starting to get towards the tail end of this race, coming up to 13 laps to go right at the stripe here. So Cucker has got to figure something out. He's running out of time, and if he continues to move backwards like this, he's gonna put himself in a really not a good position towards the end of this race. And Chris Stump doesn't look like he's got very much traffic ahead of him. They still haven't caught any sort of lap traffic, as Matt Roll, I think, is going to be the first bit of lap traffic, and that's still almost about half a straightaway, almost even, I would say, 3/4 of a straightaway ahead of Chris Stump.
Yeah, lap traffic probably not going to play a factor in here to the end, as it looks like we're going to get 11 to go here. Your top 3 on the track are also your top 3 in points coming into tonight. Matt Cucker had a 12-point lead over Justin McDuff, and then he also had a 42-point lead over Chris Stump. Chris Stump, though, is your leader right now, so just chewing a little bit into Matt's lead if they can finish this way. I'm sure that's what Chris would like to see out here tonight. I know Matt wants to go back-to-back here tonight. Just not able to find the grip here, and we have 10 to go now, so what does the 69 have left in the car?
A little bit of lap traffic now with Matt Roll. Matt Roll would immediately get out of the way of the 98, and I don't think it's going to impede. It didn't impede his progress all that much. Tucker's still trying to find where that little bit of grip is, but it's not working out for him. He's still running pretty much the exact same line as the 98. The 98 is just hitting those marks just a little bit better and still just a little bit faster. Still continues to open up that gap even just a little bit. Now Cucker going all the way up the racetrack, trying to find absolutely anything to help him out here. Is starting to look like he may be getting just a little bit desperate.
Yeah, laps are winding down. He can see the leader, the 98 of Chris Stump, just can't catch him. So if you're going to follow in those same tire tracks as Stump, you're not going to catch him. So he's going to be looking around, trying to find something. He knows he has a little bit of a gap back to the number 20 of Justin McDuff, so he can afford to search around, and if it doesn't work, no big deal, because at this point, the worst he's going to finish, unless something really happens to the 69, is going to be second place. But hey, anything can happen. This track is hot and slippery. It's still up over 100 degrees, 113 degrees, down a little bit from the start, but still hot and slippery out there. And like we said before, same tires these guys started on, same tires they have out there right now. 5 to go at this time at the line.
Yeah, I'm sure these guys are at the absolute edge of grip right now. As mentioned, these are the only tires that they have had. They never got to change their tires during the caution period. They only have these tires for the duration of the race, and this track has been very hot. These tires are probably very worn out and pretty much overheated. And another thing is, if you make one mistake and slide, suddenly those tires are even more overheated, and you've got an even bigger problem, and it's kind of just a slippery slope from there. But Chris Stump right now holding on for the time being, and now with just about 2 to go, actually about 2.5 right now, he's holding on to a very commanding lead.
Yeah, a little bit farther back in the pack here, though, it did look like the number 70 of Dylan Canova got into the wall. That allowed the 18 of AJ Hamill to get around, and also the 2 of Stefan Marinak also going to go around. Looks like Canova is going to slot into the 10th position. He's going to try and hold on here for just a handful of laps. Out front, though, it's still going to be the 98 of Chris Stump. Chris Stump has been out front now for 33 laps. He hangs on here. He's going to be the victor tonight, as I believe we're on 1 to go right here.
Final lap of the race. Chris Stump leading about 0.6 of a second over Cucker right now, and he just has to get through 2 more corners, through turns 3 and 4 right now. Gonna keep it clean. So your winner of the Snowflake 100, presented by the Hansons Starter Shop, 98 of Chris Stump.
Gonna come home in the 2nd position. That's still gonna be the 69 of Matt Coker. Not able to catch the 98 there towards the end, but he's still going to come home with a 2nd place finish, and you're finishing in your top 3 is going to be Justin McDuff. So your top 3 in points going to come home top 3 here tonight.
Yeah, a little bit of a shakeup, though, from the top 3 standings, as Stump was 3rd in the standings, though, coming into this race, and finishes in 1st, just over our points leader right now. But so it's going to give him a little bit of ground, but not going to be quite enough to take over the points lead. But 98 of Chris Stump will win the race, and we're going to talk to him and the rest of the top 3 in a few moments. So the race may be over, but the show is not. The Snowflake 100 presented by Hansons Starter Shop continues after the break with the post-race show. Welcome back to the Five Flags Speedway, where we just wrapped up the Snowflake 100 presented by the Hansons Starter Shop, and we're gonna get to talk to your leaders or your winner in just a moment. But a quick rundown of our results here, and Chris Stump wins the race with kind of a commanding lead at the end there, but it wasn't a start to finish win for him. He had to kind of battle his way up to the lead, and Matt Cucker started in second and ended up coming home in second over Justin McDuff, who finished in third. Sean Cool brought his car home in fourth, and Blake Neer rounded out the top five. Guillaume Fortin comes home in sixth. Seventh is going to be Brad Carpenter. AJ Hamill comes from 19th to finish in eighth. Steph Marinac finishes in ninth, and rounding out the top 10, that's the 70 of Dylan Canova.
In your 11th position, that's going to be the 96 of Al Smith Jr. Coming home in the 12th position is going to be the number 1 of Jeremy Carpenter. The number 11 of Brian Hacker going to come home 13th tonight. The 61 of Danny Dubuque going to bring that machine home in the 14th position. Will Dervecki in the 30 going to slot into the 15th spot. The 77 of Andy Lambert, who's making headway towards the end of that one, unfortunately sliding back to the 16th spot. 81 of James McIntyre Jr. going to come home 17th. Looks like the 12 of Brian Rogers Jr. going to come home 18th. Your 19th finisher here tonight is going to be the 16 of Paul Henley. The number 02 of Josh Mayu going to round out your top 20.
Justin McDuff comes home in 21st, our last car on the lead lap. Matt Roll finishes a lap down in 22nd. Alex Oriens finishes in 23rd, and Brett Bartels finishes in 24th to round out our 24-car field. Now moving on to the post-race, continuing on the post-race show and moving on to our interviews. Now going to catch up with the race winner. That's going to be the 98 of Chris Stump. Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris, this is a bit of an interesting race because it was kind of our first race after the update, and iRacing kind of brought out this dynamic weather system with the dynamic skies. And from what we saw during practice and qualifying, it did change things a little bit. How did it change things for you behind the wheel?
Qualifying, it definitely made a big difference. You saw towards the end a cloud roll over, and later guys definitely gained from it. But during the race, we're all out here at the same time and really didn't notice much in the car. I don't know if we caught any clouds or not. I didn't, hear track temperature dropping or anything in the app I'm running.
Well, it looked like for a little bit that we were going to go from the one flag to the next completely green, but we did have that caution kind of break things up and completely change the dynamic of this race. And when we started to stack up for that restart, what were you kind of thinking when you were sitting in your position?
Well, the whole race, Matt was behind me, and I was kind of pacing myself off of him. He does a phenomenal job saving his tires, and I was just trying to keep an even distance between himself and I, and not really worry about the leaders. And figured when that caution came out, lap 50, it was time to go, and just waited for the moment, and just tried to not work the right front too much by pressing the issue too soon, and a hole opened up and jumped in there.
Well, taking a look at our upcoming schedule here, we've got the NHR 100 next week at USA International. And how are you thinking of taking on that track, and how are you feeling about your chances at USA International?
USA, I do okay there. It's the same deal. Kind of a cheese grater in the right front. Just really have to be easy getting in and save your equipment for the end. It's a long race, big track. Really no reason to press the issue early on, but should be a good show for everyone.
And well, we saw everyone running these Christmas designs for the Snowflake 100, and you had one yourself, and I think you're making a bit of a statement. And Die Hard's a Christmas movie?
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, I want to thank teammate AJ Hamill for the awesome paint job.
Well, let's continue it rolling here. We'll give you the floor here, and who do you wish to thank for this race win here tonight?
I want to thank race sponsor Hansons Starter Shop, Coach's Corner for putting on the series. You guys up in the broadcast booth, this is a top-notch league, and everyone takes it serious, and that's what makes it fun. And it's fun to come each week, and a lot of competition.
Well, thank you for coming and talking to us, Chris. That was Chris Stump, the driver of the number 98, and your winner of the Snowflake 100. Moving on now, I believe Roger is going to catch up with the second place finisher.
That's right, Kelly. I did catch up with the second place finisher, the 69, and Matt Cucker. Matt, you got a copy with us out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, you're here, and in your voice, you can hear it. You seem a little disappointed in your finish here tonight. You did battle. You kind of had to make your way back up through the field after starting second. You got freight trained. They stuck you on the outside lane. You kind of fell back. It looks like I think you were back to 8th place at one time. How'd you make your way up through the field here tonight to finish back into the second position?
Just very carefully and methodically. I mean, once you're back there, it's really hard to try and do anything. I mean, the car was tight underneath everybody. It was tight up trying to use the outside. It was everywhere I went, it was tight. So I was just trying to find the holes when they opened, and luckily we were able to, especially on that restart there. I think we went from 5th to 2nd, was it, or 3rd, and that's what it was.
Yeah, you talk about the car being tight out there and not being able to probably get the power down coming off the corner. As the track temp for qualifying, Kelly had touched on it here a little bit ago with talking with Chris. When you went out there for qualifying, the track temp was up probably around 118 degrees. Did that play any factor here tonight?
For qualifying, I mean, that's racing. I mean, if we weren't here and we were out at Daytona or something, I mean, a cloud can come over and someone can pick up time. So, I mean, for us not starting on the pole and starting second, it really wasn't a big difference because this race here, you just had to save tires, and I just didn't save enough. I thought I was, and I just came up a little bit shy.
Yeah, tell us how difficult that is with this series. You guys get one set of tires from the start to the finish. You're not able to come down. You can come down and, I guess, put fuel in the car, but no tires. How hard is that to save tires throughout this whole run?
It's probably one of the hardest things to do. I mean, yeah, you can come down, put fuel in. It might loosen up the car, tighten up the car if it's tight or loose. I mean, I tried that last year in the one race at Iowa, but I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to win, and you have to save tires. You have to know how to back up your corners and not hit anybody. You got to stay real conservative, should I say, while trying to pass people, because you don't want to damage your car, and that'll hurt your tires even more than driving.
Yeah, we saw that with a couple of those guys getting into each other and possibly sliding back through the field here tonight. But your car, that 69 machine, is pretty pristine. It looks like you could load that back up on the trailer, and you're going to be able to use that one next week. But you came in tonight as your points leader. You're going to finish second place here tonight. It looks like you're going to retain that points lead leaving here. What's looking forward on the schedule? Like we said, we go to USA next week. What's going to be the key next week at USA Speedway?
Same as it's been the whole season so far, is try to get a good qualifying run. I know we haven't had them except for the last 2 weeks, and just save tires from start to finish. And when it comes time, it's go time. You got to go at the end of the race.
Yeah, good starting position for you tonight, and it's also going to pay off here in the end as you bring that 69 machine home in the second place. Is there anybody you got to thank, any sponsors on that 69? I know you don't carry the paint scheme of the festivities for this month at all. It looks like you're just running your regular paint scheme, but you got any sponsors on that car you got to give a shout out to?
I got to thank Turn 3 Auto Transport, and the only reason I'm running this scheme is I got a new car coming. It was supposed to be here this week, but they didn't get it done in time, so hopefully next week it'll be done. And I got to thank Globalcom, iAnalyze. I got to thank Al Smith and Upstate Racing League for putting this whole show on each and every week. I got to thank you guys for broadcasting here at MaxSpeedTV. I mean, it's always a blast watching the broadcast after I'm done racing. So thank you guys, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. It's our honor. So thank you. And, well, that's going to be your second place finisher right there, Kelly. He brings that pristine number 69 home in the second place.
Yeah, moving on now to our third place finisher. That's the 20 of Justin McDuff. Justin, can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha. How you doing?
Well, Justin, before we started this race, we talked to your brother, and he called for you to be the winner of this race. But then when we went through qualifying, you started all the way back in 8th place, and we heard from a few others that it was very difficult to pass at this track. So how did you go about working your way through the traffic to move up in this race?
Yeah, I just can't qualify. It's never been my strongest suit, so that's something I definitely need to work on. It's my weakest point right now, I think. I mean, I honestly, I just try to take care of the right front. Matt nailed it. The key to these long races is you gotta take care of your tires, and you gotta have something at the end. And when we got going there in that first run, I really didn't want to see that yellow. I was like, man, because I started to come to life there. I saved the right front, and I didn't have a lot of heat in it, and I was starting to really be able to roll in on these guys and drive underneath them. And I honestly thought I was going to be able to drive right up there to the lead when they started getting dicey there, but it just wasn't meant to be. And then I overdrove it on the outside there on that only restart we had, and then it just killed it for me. Those guys just drove away, and then I was kind of in the rocking chair there between second and fourth.
Well, we had some good battles throughout the race, and as I mentioned, it was hard for people to pass. But where did you think was the best place to pass? So, would you think it was to cross them up and dive for the inside, or did you try to kind of hang it out, to hang it out on the outside?
I was getting a really good drive through 1 and 2. I was kind of hooking the apron, and I was able to drive underneath someone off of 2 if they kind of pushed the nose a little bit. And then I was driving underneath them into 3 there. That's kind of where I was making my moves. But that was kind of the key tonight was, taking care of that right front. So if you could really get up close on a guy, they'd push off the corner. You could just drive underneath them.
Well, tonight marks the halfway point of the regular season for the Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series. And what is your focus for the last half of the regular season before the chase?
I should qualify better. It's plain and simple. That's the issue right now. It's what's lost me the points lead, and it's lost me. I mean, honestly, last week and this week, I thought I had speed capable of contending for the win. It's just, you can't win these races when you start that deep in the field. You got to use your stuff coming up through there, and that's something I definitely need to work on, especially as we get down and the intensity starts to ratchet up when we get down there into the last 5 races.
Well, Matt Cucker said, I believe, just over a week ago that he had to qualify better, and then he nearly got the pole this week. So I think that might be a good sign for you next week.
I'll take anything at this point. Any little bit of hope I can cling to for next week.
Well, before we let you go, Justin, I'm sure you're starting to get familiar with this process now, but we're going to give you the floor and allow you to thank whoever you wish to thank for this good finish here tonight.
Well, first, I'd like to thank you guys. I know there's a couple curveballs thrown at you tonight with the new format, and I know KR had some technical issues. You guys do a great job, and I'm sure you did a great job tonight as always. Al Smith, he puts a lot of work in, and it's not always easy. And he has a good group of guys behind him, helping him pull the strings behind the scene. Art's Barbershop. Art, if you're watching, I hope you enjoyed the race, and it was pretty exciting there in the midpoint of the race. And the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, it's a cause I hold near and dear to my heart, and I'm proud to be able to fly their colors on my car each week, and they keep putting them up front here.
Well, thank you very much for coming and talk to us, Justin. Hopefully we hear from you again next week.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Well, that was our third place finisher, Justin McDuff. And Roger, you're going to send it back to you for a quick second for your closing thoughts here for this race.
Closing thoughts here from the Five Flags Speedway. It was a pretty calm race here tonight. We only saw 1 caution fly for only 4 laps. The rest of this race has pretty much been run under green flag. It was a single file race. We saw track temps hit, I believe, a high of probably around 125 degrees out there tonight. So that made passing just a little bit difficult. We saw a couple guys make a little bit of a bump and run there in about the mid race, but pretty much just a pretty calm race all around.
Yeah, I think the reason why it was so calm is after all the bumping and banging last week, the race administrators kind of came down and said enough of that. The drivers that were really kind of instigating it, they handed out some very serious penalties to them. So everyone kind of, I guess, came into this race, wanted to smarten up a little bit and play it a bit calm because they don't want to really risk anything for no good reason. So everyone kind of played it a bit took it easy this week, and I still think it was a pretty decent race. And I think now the focus shifts to the last half of the season. And KR, your thoughts here?
Now, I'll tell you what, another great race by the Upstate Racing League, Coach's Corner Pro Late Model Series. I'm looking forward to next week, the NHR 100 at USA International. That'll be right here on MaxSpeedTV starting at 7:40 p.m. Central. But enough can't be said about tonight's race. One caution, great side-by-side racing. Yeah, we saw some single file action, but it wasn't strung out single file. There was always a possibility that someone was going to try and make a move. And we did see some good close racing and a lot of drivers, like you mentioned, being pretty smart about how they drove tonight.
Well, that's going to do it here for us at Max Speed. On behalf of myself, Roger Muth, KR Stolfus, and everyone at both Max Speed TV and at the Upstate Racing League, we'd like to thank you very much for watching with us, and we hope to see you again next week.
The Upstate Racing League hopes you enjoyed this broadcast on MaxSpeedTV, and we thank you for your continued support.